does a world get constructed where there is no grace?
It's a world that says you get what you deserve. So Jesus died for you, paid for your sins. Now get your act together. It's like he's cleaned the board. Now he paid your debts. Now it's up to you to keep the bank accounts clear.
You ever think that even though you try to raise your kids as best as you possibly can, faithfully to God, you want to show them grace and love and hold them accountable and, get everything properly aligned for them. But at the end of the day, I had this sobering thought, and it's that eventually I think I'm going to mess them up somewhere along the lines. Like, I'm not a perfect person, definitely not a perfect parent. And as best as I can try, at some point, I'm going to mess it up. I share this really personal story about me and my daughter, Tegan, and how she was struggling. And, well, where does that sense of struggle and self come from? And that's what this podcast is really going to be centered around, is how do we develop our sense of self? When we think about what forces shape us into how we think about ourselves, what are those forces? Where do they come from? And how does the gospel turn that around? Jerry starts off and talks about how he's excited about the covenant and how God thinks of us and how God is chasing after us. And that's all true. But then why do we forget that? And particularly in this parent-centered podcast, is how do we mess that up in our kids, and how do we develop that for our kids, and how is that possible that we develop that in ourselves? It's a really deep one on this podcast, and I hope you enjoy it, because this one's for the parents out there and anyone who is struggling to find out how do we develop the sense of self in our kids and ourselves. Thanks for watching this episode of the Disciple Standard Podcast.
The future is now.
Welcome back to the Disciple Standard Podcast. On my right, we have the Dean of Deep Thoughts, the Right Reverend, the Doctor, Jerry Reed. Welcome back to the pod.
Thank you.
And then we've got the Sultan of Sound himself, Saran Brown. Welcome to the pod. Jerry, you walked in here and you said, I'm fired up right now. I'm fired up. What are you fired up about? What's the number one? You got 3 or 4 things.
Number one would be difficult.
Give me one of the top 3 then.
All right. The last hour before this, I was with a student, Pam, and we're working through all the covenants, what they are, how they fit together, the promises, the failure, how Christ fulfills the covenants, and what difference that makes for the church.
So why does that fire you up, though?
Because it's
someone's listening here and they've never heard the word covenant before. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's that fire you up?
All right. So God's made a covenant with humanity. Covenant, as God works within cultures, the particular culture that God chose to work in would have covenants, nation with nation generally, sometimes marriage covenants, depending on how you want to read these. And it's a binding agreement with two sides, usually a stronger side and a weaker side. The stronger side will protect the weaker side. It's usually an army and an army, a king and a king, a vassal king. And as long as the weaker king is faithful to the larger king, whenever the weaker guy is in trouble, the larger guy will come and help. But if the younger guy, the weaker nation, decides it's going to join with another nation and rebel, then all bets are off and that stronger king has every right to come and destroy you. So God's made a covenant with us as God, and we are his people. We are responsible. Genesis makes it clear he's creator, we're responsible, and humanity has repeatedly broken this covenant with God and said, I will be like God. Read Genesis 3. Adam and Eve, they want to be like God, and so the story continues, and the story of the Bible then is of God pursuing a people who repeatedly run away from him. You've got these larger covenants, but then when you understand it, even as a marriage covenant, God, our husband, has pursued us, made us his spouse, and we have played the harlot, and he is pursuing us. So as we work through these covenants, and we see them worked out in that particular history of Israel, and then you see the implications for us. If God is our husband, then we have someone in our lives who is always pursuing us, always looking for our best interest, who's always on our side, who understands our sin, who will never give up. So it fires you up because you look at life, and life is really, really messy, and bad stuff happens constantly. I think what we share as people is heartache and regret, and yet we have a husband who is the king of the universe, and it really is okay.
How do you see this working out in your life then? Like, you love this, it fires you up. What's going on? What?
All right, so you're a kid, and you come from a family that's totally dysfunctional, and your parents get divorced, and they are just mean to each other, and somehow you're caught in the middle. So you feel like it's your fault. So your internal sort of psyche is just getting ripped apart to shreds. And now you're trying to put your life together. You're moving out of high school towards college. But you got all this junk inside because your family was just fighting all the time. And you're afraid of relationship. You're afraid of yourself. You don't know what to do. The truth is this: whether you ever get married or not, there is a God who is pursuing you with the greatest love you could ever have. It's turning to him and recognizing that healing and acceptance and joy come from a relationship with him.
I appreciate that, especially for like someone who's like in grade school or something like that. But what about you, Jerry? I mean, you're what, 50-something? I don't know.
I used to be 50-something.
50-something, 60-something, okay? And what does the covenant say to you now? Like, why are you still fired up about it? What is it in your life that is,
Okay. You get to be my age. And I was talking to a guy who worked at one of the Elevation churches. And he said, you know what we do with a guy your age? He said, we put you on the side. And I thought, isn't that interesting? And so there's a tendency in our culture, if you look at advertising, if you look at pretty much everything, once you hit 50s, 60s, you're done. You need new and relevant. And so as I look at my life and say, in some ways I feel like I'm just beginning, and yet I think, all right, am I really just done? Is it guys my age a lot of guys my age have retired. A lot of pastors retire early 60s, and they're done. And I think, what do they do with their lives? And so as I look at my own life, and I think, am I done? Are my days over? Is that all I got? And then I look at this one who's pursuing me and say, all right, here's the goal. Be quiet. I told you I'm working on this whole idea of sense of self. Who am I? You're not define yourself by being a parent or a husband or a job, but who am I? What is the constant in your life that makes you you? So I've been working through that. And then understanding that then there's a husband who's pursuing me, then he knows where I fit. It might be on the sideline. It may not be on the sideline. It may be something no one ever sees, but it doesn't matter. It's finding where in this incredible grand love story I actually fit. That to me is incredibly comforting.
Yeah. Saran, as you hear Jerry talk, I've got two questions for you. As someone who's taken the Article 23 sometime in the future, someday, you want to pursue being a pastor and all that in the future. I would assume that you'd have to answer the question, what is a covenant? Can you repeat back what Jerry just said?
God's promise to his people, to redeem his people. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay.
That's what I would say. It's funny because when he was talking about all that, and then you said how does it apply in his life?
Yeah.
That's what I was really focusing on.
Yeah, of course.
How does the covenant apply in my life?
Which would be my second question to you. Yeah.
Oh, was that the second question? Mm-hmm. Oh. And I was just thinking of life is messy, like how you said. How many times I've messed up as a son, as a friend, and there really is someone that at all the times when I felt it's funny because at all the times when I was the farthest away from God, and I would say I was the farthest away from God. No, that's not really how it functions, but when I felt like I was the farthest away from
theology.
I was the farthest away from God, I felt that way, is when I came back stronger, more time in the Bible. I his presence was more known to me than ever. And then you enter this default mode where you're just kind of pilling around. I'm now going off on a side tangent. My brain's going kind of crazy with everything that Jerry says, which always happens whenever Jerry speaks. It's kind of annoying. I'm sorry, Jerry.
Okay, so we'll at least finish your thought here.
So my life's been so messy, but God really has seen me through. promise never leave forsake me. I have a loving family, a home, children who are healthy and strong, and like everything seems like it's going great. Even when things seem like they're going wrong, I know that things will be like so far better, worse off.
Yeah.
And he really is like a sustainer. He really like sees.
It's funny.
And he even gives you the strength. So even like when it's bad, you're like, it can be worse and this is nothing. So like I say often, like this too shall pass. Like this is just like an interim bad time.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
I feel like every time we complain, it could be worse, right? Like God has given us so much and we still have find something to complain about anyway.
It should be worse.
That's even a better point. Yeah, it should be worse. Could you elaborate on?
I have a friend who said, I just want God to give me what I deserve.
Yikes.
Oh,
Can you imagine what a ridiculous statement that is?
you take that.
Is he a Christian? Is he not? Christian?
Yeah, he's a Christian, but he thinks he's I don't want to slam him, but he would say he feels like he's a pretty faithful Christian. The problem is, I think we're a lot less faithful than we think. I mean, we can we look faithful because we've all preached. You lead music every week. You get up there and bare your soul. You know, you're doing all your stuff. I'm doing my stuff. And people would look at us and say, well, you guys really love Jesus. Yeah, maybe. There's some ways in which maybe I do. There's some ways in which Jesus hasn't infiltrated parts of my life.
In the moment when you see me only 30 minutes out of the week, then
look
I'm
good.
talking about Jesus. Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
But there's a whole bunch of other 30 minutes outside of this.
Yep. So if we got what we deserved, if it really was God, the Deuteronomy, there's a passage in the end of Deuteronomy where Moses calls this new generation going into Israel, into the promised land. If you're obedient, God will bless you, and He lists all these blessings. You'll have more animals you know what to do with. Your crops will grow. Your animals and your people, there'll never be miscarriages. He goes on. Your enemies will run from before you. But if you do the opposite and disobey, which is really idol worship, then there'll be a famine. Your enemies will destroy you. Your animals and your wives will miscarry, and it's a pretty black and white statement. And so if we would apply that somehow spiritually to our lives and in our faithfulness, God really blessed us. It's sort of a quasi-health and wealth gospel. We'd be in a lot worse shape than we think.
Can I tell you guys a personal story of mine right here? This just happened last night, and so it's just heavily on my mind. My wife told me about it this morning. And it was like it's back to what you were talking about, the sense of self. So my daughter, she's 6, T. And she is upset about something after bath time. She's been messing up all day. I almost spanked her. I didn't spank her, and I was like, I usually follow through. I'm going to spank you. This is the only time that I did not spank her because I saw her that she was broken already broken up about what she did was wrong, and I was telling her about grace and mercy instead of punishment and wrath and all that stuff. I saw it as a great opportunity. Anyway, later that night, she messed up again, and she was upset. And my wife goes up to her, and she said, why are you upset? And she says, I don't want to say. Tell me. She's like, no, it's a bad word. And my wife's like, what? What's the word? And she goes, I won't say it, but I'll spell it. Okay? Ugle. Why? Why? I mean, why? I mean, why?
She spelled it French.
Ugle. And my wife goes, ugly? Where did you learn this? Do you feel like you're ugly? And she goes, yes. And then my wife goes, who told you you're ugly? How do you think you're ugly? And she's like, I just make bad decisions all the time.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Brielle told her. I was prime spanking Brielle in my brain. I was like, who told her she's ugly? Who told her? I went full 545.
No, Tegan, and if anyone doesn't know, I think she's just an incredibly beautiful little girl. Anyway, she says, I just feel ugly. I feel like I make bad decisions. We're like, okay, it's not about looks, but maybe this is something deeper. And so my wife kind of handled this. And she was like, why do you think you're making bad decisions? Why do you think you're ugly? And she's like, I just can't. I've got sin in my heart and I can't do it right, or I can't go. And then it was just an awesome opportunity for my wife to kind of tell her about her sense of self. Like, hey, you know that you are beautiful and that you're not defined by whatever the sin is. Like your mom and your dad love you very much, and God loves you very much, and who you are is not ugly. Who you are, you're very beautiful on the inside, and you like this is just sin in your life, but God forgives your sin, and we forgive your sin, and on and on. Like I don't forget all the little details that my wife said. Anyway, she took it as a very good opportunity, and there was a lot more. So if I miss something, it's just because there's an extended conversation. But it was just like an opportunity. Well, I saw, and I've been thinking about it today, that the sense of self, I mean, it's certainly shaped very, very early, but I didn't know to that sophistication. I didn't know to a six-year-old that she could see herself as ugly. Because we talk a lot about sin, and like if they do something wrong, that's sin. It must be punished, or we show grace. Like I really go one of those two routes, and that I have sin, and God forgives me and loves me, so that's why I'm forgiving you and loving you, X, Y, Z, and it goes on. But I didn't understand, like, we talk about in American culture, I think, Tim Keller really outlines it pretty well for me. He says that American or Western culture, we think that the sense of self, we can define our own sense of self apart from anyone else. And that he said that's simply just not true. Like, and theoretically, if we think about it, yeah, like in a book on paper that makes sense and someone's talking about, but when it's actually worked out, you get your sense of self primarily from people around you and how they see you. It's like that's the primary way you get your sense of self, because that's the reflection that you get. And so if someone's telling her she's like ugly, either physically or spiritually or whatever, or she's doing wrong, and she comes to that determination that she's ugly, it's because it's outside forces looking in, which leads me to think like, okay, that's why it's so important to focus on something like the covenant, or focus on like God loves you, forgives you, likes you, even cherishes you, wants you close, is because that helps build a sense of self. It doesn't say, it says a lot about God for sure, but it says a lot about you too, like how that sense of self reflects upon, how it's shaped rather by that outside stimulus.
That's interesting. So with kids, tell me if you think I'm off here. Maybe the message we give them is less about sin. Not that they're not sinners, but it sounds like Tegan's very aware.
She's very aware, yeah.
And more about, like this isn't criticism at all, but more about grace. Someone like Tegan, when the Spirit is moving and she's aware that she's broken, I can see how in the legalistic world I grew up in, we were repeatedly told how bad we were. You ingest that as a kid, especially if you're someone like me with this very tender conscience. But you don't hear about God's grace. I'm just thinking about youth group. We can focus on what they're doing wrong, but we really can focus on what Christ has done right.
Yeah, I heard this one quote. I think it's Steve Brown, your boy. Law for the hard-hearted, grace for the brokenhearted. Yeah. And it's like at least something in that vein where like, yeah, the tender conscience or the very, I don't know, the tender soul of a 6-year-old would probably take to more of that sin talk, you're doing this wrong talk, punishment talk, stronger. It has more of an effect or, critical hit, super effective on their soul rather than like grace. And maybe, I don't know, maybe, and that's maybe different for my kids or some other kids. I don't know.
Well, Brown's whole ministry is grace.
Of course it is, yeah.
And the reason why is because he knows people have been beat up enough. They don't need church. Church is pretty good at, the word that I learned this year, that's kind of a silly word, but you hear it as church hurt. We got a lot of beat up people, and we're pretty good at pointing fingers and saying you don't live up to whatever it is you're supposed to live up to.
I don't know if I'd put church hurt in the same category though, personally, as probably biased from a pastor though. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, sorry, I don't mean to.
No. But his message is, man, people are so beat up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even non-Christians are beat up. I think non-Christians, because of God's kindness, they're aware of they may not call it sin, but they're aware of their brokenness.
Yeah.
Otherwise, drug addiction wouldn't be so high, and alcoholism. You have something to fight away from that pain.
Yeah, there's two things here. Like, it's like, okay, so you've got, so I guess we could talk on two planes. One is like the child, right, who's like tenderhearted, kind of working through even concepts of thinking about self. Maybe, personally, it was a good time to talk about grace, but maybe we've she's latched on to sin or something. I don't know, like maybe, but she still does things wrong. I still have to correct things when they need to be corrected. So
you don't even have to correct her. She's correcting herself.
I mean, yeah, she is. She's.
I mean, it's internal.
And she corrects herself afterwards. She's a, let me leave. Let me think about it. This is what I come to. Like, and it's funny because she came to
Sweet
that.
girl.
Yeah, she came to that just in her, like, just in her own thoughts. Like she's just philosophizing in the closet or something, ruminating about it. And that's just what we had to deal with. But then also it's like, if we talk about it on an adult level, this church hurt idea, and we could talk about this if you want, but it's like sometimes it's self-inflicted. I mean, a lot of times, like this church hurt thing is like, I don't know. That's why I kind of like recoil to that.
I think so.
I don't really, it's case by case. And I really have to do that. And I have a biased case about things, just honestly.
I had someone come to me one day and talk about somebody, and they thought it was church hurt. And I thought, no, it's not. It's just selfishness on that person's part.
There you go.
It wasn't church hurt.
Yeah. I don't know, Saran. What are you thinking, Saran? Like about your own kid or church hurt? Or what?
I'm thinking of you're saying that children have all these experiences and they have them so long, young, and it reminds me of like all the times when my mom was like, and then this happened, and then you did this, and you were so inquisitive as a child, and you asked all these questions, and da 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 da, and all this stuff, and then it makes me think of like, you never know. My brain again, just being my Saran brain, like. My child doesn't know what something's called until I tell her what it's called, right? And then she files it away, and she will never remember the moment that this conversation happened. So, like, we had that whole conversation about demons in the car. I think I told you about that. She was asking me about demons, and, like, this is before Aaron's whole demon situation. She was just asking me questions about angels and demons and heaven and all that stuff. And I was like,
if you want to know about my demon situation, go to Patreon. But sorry, go ahead.
And I will probably remember that conversation forever. She will not remember that conversation, but in that moment, it was filed in some kind of subcategory in her brain that built some kind of character that she will like take forever.
Yep.
And I think that's insane.
I think,
amazing.
I think about kids like I think I have to be aware that I'm always shaping their identity.
Always. Literally always. Literally always.
And it's like,
and it's hard because even when you feel like you're not being watched, they're watching you.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Always. You're like, oh, they're in the other room. They're not paying attention. They're just silently listening to whatever's happening. Hey, what's that song you're listening to? What are you talking about? You're in your room and you're listening to it.
It was
you're
going
on the other side of the house.
Yeah. It was going like many men wish death upon.
That's funny. But it's
and that development is really young.
So young.
The younger you are, maybe the deeper it goes. You've heard psychologists talk about whether it's things that have been done negatively or positive to you. There are things that happen in your life before you ever even have the ability to speak. Mm-hmm. So you learn things without language, and if they're negative, when you get older and you try to describe them, you don't have language for them because they were pre-language, and now you're trying to take apart a puzzle that you don't have any means really to take it apart. So the positive would be true too, that they've learned. You know, you hear studies of kids that are in orphanages and never get touched when they're babies, and the effect it has on them, and that's pre-language. Yeah, and they then have the negatives, or you would have the positives, all the way you guys have supported your children, and there's really there's nothing to talk about. It just is. Yeah, I think that's fascinating how. Like it was a pretty good idea to have a father and a mother, and
it's certainly a good advantage. But then I think about the weight that it carries on a parent if you're like a faithful or trying to be faithful Christian parent that knows and loves Jesus, and you're trying to raise the best little people as possible. And you're trying to shape
best little sinners possible.
Yes, best little sinners possible into like decent human beings that are polite and that doesn't break the law. You know, like I mean, just like
that's interesting. Is that what you want?
No, here's my thought is like
that's interesting.
Let me finish the thought. I think.
Your thought.
Hold on, like
Jerry does too apparently.
I was thinking. Here's my thought. Like I think I was talking in generality in that moment. I think for most people. Me included, like I'm trying to raise like a decent human being, and then deeper than that, if I'm like faithfully loving God, I want to like have them have their spirit, their soul, their identity wrapped up and caught up in Jesus, and that they know that Jesus loves them and they love Jesus. Like ultimately, that's what it is. And how that plays out, whatever. I really don't care. Like I love jujitsu. I don't care if they're good at jujitsu. I think I have cool stuff to show them, and I want them to learn the cool stuff. If they don't, no big deal. I'm not worried about it. But then, yeah, however best I can try my possible absolute best, I think in some way I'm still going to scar them.
Sure.
You know, like whatever. And that's my point.
Screwed up parents, screw up children.
My absolute best that I could try to surmise for my child, my own flesh and blood. I think they still have something to complain about me, or at very least complain, at very most go see a therapist about me.
Yep.
Bro.
Yep.
The child has all the reins and all the freedom in the world, and then they're like, why weren't you tough on me? The child has a parent who is very restrictive. You were too tough on me. There's like, you try to be in the middle, and then the child has another complaint. Do you have a friend that doesn't have a single complaint about their parent? Yeah. So yeah, you 100% screwed up in some way.
But like, I just want to minimize the screw up.
Yeah,
you know, like
but
it's gonna happen, kid. It's gonna happen.
You're gonna have the moment where
I'm gonna mess you up,
and then all the other times they file away, and they just remember that one until
Know this.
adulthood.
Know this. Your dad loves you. Your dad loves Jesus, and he tried his very best, and you're still messed up. Cause like, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry in advance.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you learned
I'm
that.
Sorry, kid.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Please,
Yeah.
I'm asking for your forgiveness.
Yeah.
It's a great thing to learn already.
Yeah, well, it's tough. Like it's like at the same time it's pressure and adds weight, but at the same time it doesn't. You know, like then you fall back into like, okay, God is,
God is sovereign.
God is raising you. God is like
Yep.
forming. I don't know. You guys had thoughts. You were
raising
chopping at
me.
the bit at your
God's
thoughts.
raising me.
That's true.
What do you mean God's
Fair
raising?
enough.
God's raising me and has charged me with taking care of you.
Yeah. I'm like,
What are you talking about?
what were your thoughts?
We are
that
both
you
getting
guys had
raised right now.
You guys had
I'm
thoughts on thoughts.
saying too is you want to raise a decent child. Mine would be I want to raise an independent child,
Yeah. Fair
someone
enough.
who
Same.
can do it on their own. But I also want to raise a child who's aware that they're broken. And so there's not these expectations that they're going to get it all together. You really do need a savior. I want that to be part of it. And don't be surprised if the world doesn't work like you think it's going to work. I don't want them to think you get the right education, you do this, and everything's. You're going to find the person, the girl. You're going to find the guy on the white horse who's going to swoop into your life, and vice versa.
Yeah.
You're gonna have trouble as a wife or a husband, as a parent. You're going to have sin that you fight. I told the high schoolers this week I was doing chapel and just saying, my guess is each of you has a particular sin that you guys fight that are different than the others of us. I want them to know that sin's going to be something they deal with. And life's tough.
Believe me, Tegan knows that already.
Yep.
UGLE.
UGLE. Ain't got no alibi.
So yeah, I mean, these kids are struggling. I mean, parents, everyone's struggling.
And then grace. They got to know grace.
They have to. That's the other half of that.
Yeah. God treats you so much better than
It'd be detrimental if you didn't understand.
Think of it. I grew up in a non-grace world, but it was a church world, so that may be some of the stuff I still deal with.
How does the world get fashioned like that though? Like, I don't want to be critical about the world that you grew up in, but like,
You'd be critical of
how
it.
How does a world gets constructed where there is no grace?
It's a world that says you get what you deserve. So Jesus died for you, paid for your sins. Now get your act together. It's like he's cleaned the board. Now he paid your debts. Now it's up to you to keep the bank accounts clear.
And oh my goodness, you mess it up again.
Yep.
Now you gotta
you got to repent.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I walked that aisle to become a Christian, because real Christians don't have these troubles that I do. And so I become a Christian again and again and again and again as a kid, thinking I'm going to do it right this time. And then, you're walking down the aisle and all of a sudden you did it again. And you're like, wait, that only lasted 30 seconds.
So what were the biggest factors in your life, Jerry, that helped to shape your sense of self?
One, I felt like I didn't measure up ever. Somewhere along the line, I got the message that I was the unwanted child.
You still struggle with that.
Yeah. I think because you talk about development of sense of self really young, somewhere in there. That who knows?
Yeah.
So that was there. I don't know where it came from. I have suggestions in my brain, but whatever. And so I think, and I didn't fit this world I lived in. The world I lived in was you just are obedient, you just do it. And I was a kid who always wanted to know why. So I was often termed as rebellious, not rebellious at all. I just was inquisitive. So I learned to live two different lives. I was never rebellious outwardly. I didn't go run around and do all this stuff. But I always won the Bible Award. So on the outside, I was the kid that everyone looked at and said, oh, that's the good kid. But on the inside, I had all these questions. And so I lived two different lives. And it wasn't until, so by the time I was a senior in high school, my dad ran a Bible conference, and all these big name preachers would come. And as a senior, I don't know why I even cared. I'd have to go to church. I mean, I had to go and hear these guys. And I would think, this just doesn't make sense. What they say, but I didn't know what to do with it, other than I didn't agree with it. And many of those pastors that I would eat lunch with then, because my dad ran this thing, so then they'd come to the house during the week for dinner. And many of them were just pompous and impressed by themselves. There's one pastor, old guy named Warren Wiersbe, who treated me like I was an equal. He will be my hero forever. I only knew him as a kid. And so I listen to him on the radio sometimes. I think, go Warren, go. He doesn't know that he would have no idea who I am.
Wow.
I've got his autobiography that I read. And I
Isn't
think
that crazy?
Yep.
That's some crazy
so
stuff.
he gave me a light in that darkness.
Huh.
I'd never quite lived up. And Warren Wiersbe said, you do. But I didn't fit in that world. And I knew that world to me theologically didn't make sense. But I didn't know how or why. I'm 17 years old. And I'm trying to make sense of this. And then I started this Bible college, started working at Key Biscayne Church as a janitor, and I met Steve Brown. And all of a sudden, I met people who thought along the lines I did. I just didn't know anybody thought that way.
Yeah.
And that was God. So one would be that I didn't fit. Secondly, that God kindly put me in Steve's path. And because I was a maintenance guy, I was in his office at all hours, and we just talk and talk. He took me very seriously. I was there the next 12 years.
Wow.
And he really understands. I used to think his grace talk was just a shtick. Like it's all just kind of BS. It wasn't. It was real. And
you got to see the talk and the person behind it.
Yeah, and his grace is, Scandalous Freedom is one of his books, perhaps my favorite. And it's pushes it to the point where people say, well, that's not grace, that's antinomianism.
Sure.
Antinomianism.
Yeah.
So he would get accused of that.
Do you know what
What's that?
Yeah. I'm about to say, do you know what antinomian?
The idea that you,
Namas?
if it really is grace,
Namas.
there's really nothing you have to do. You are free to sin all you want. No, I'm not. Yeah, you are. If I have an unlimited credit card, what are your limits? Nice. Well, you just said it's unlimited. So if you as a Christian choose to sin all you want, you can do that, except if your heart's been changed by the Spirit, so are your desires. So that there really is a change, not because you have to, but because you want to. So it's really focusing on your heart desires rather than your outer obedience.
Law.
God's not concerned with your outer obedience because you're never going to be obedient. You're never going to live up to that pattern.
Kind of like you're sinning and you're like, no!
Yeah.
I did it again.
The sort of grace
I thought
people,
I ended this.
Yeah, that's right. The sort of grace people say, now get your act together. Yeah. The real grace people, I think, that's maybe not a fair term, is I think what happens is God reveals deeper and deeper levels of your sin.
Yeah.
It's always grace. So that you follow me around, if I curse, it's because I choose to, because I think it's funny. It's not like, and so I will say things because I like the response. It's the only, it's not really I think these things. It's just fun to watch people's responses. So probably there's some sin there and just egging people on just because it's funny to see what happens. Like what I said to TJ on Sunday. Uh-huh. That sort of stuff. It's just like ridiculous.
That's funny.
But it's funny. But if you look down deep and you begin to see your pride and your hatred and your arrogance, and so those were the turning points.
Yeah, I'm just curious about like how I can continue to, back to this Tegan story.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, what can I do? Because obviously she's starting down this journey. I'm not sure how long she's been thinking like this. And so at least 6, right? She's 6 at least now. Maybe she's been thinking about it for a while. But the development of the sense of self, God is gracious. I mean, I'm listening to your story to put people in your path to help you kind of curve that to the direction that you need it curved.
She's in a grace place.
I mean, yeah.
Of all the churches I've been to, this is a place that actually believes in grace.
Yeah.
And it's biblical grace, not some silliness. And Tegan's think of the world, think of all the adults in her life. And my guess is you tell her the truth even about yourself. You don't have to give her your specifics. But Tegan and I have trouble in this area as well. I mean, that's shepherding a child's heart.
Her and me and her mom. Yeah, for sure, because you can't really talk about grace unless you feel like you know your own sin and then you've experienced that grace yourself. Like I'll be brief, just because in the spirit that you were telling your story. In my life, like I lived like a duplicitous life. Like I was one way and there was another way in front of church and not church people. So to the point where I had 2 different Facebook accounts. I mean, it was like a very, very duplicitous life. So when I understand people, yeah, right.
Aaron and Sharon.
Yeah, completely different people, Aaron and Sharon.
Or Karen.
It was Skylar. All right, that was my other name.
Skylar? Was it really?
I swear. I was dumb, dude. I was dumb. Yeah,
Skylar.
See? Look how
judging your name choice.
Yeah, no, that's a cool name, guys. I don't even care.
I'll
Actually,
pick Sean.
it was almost to the
That's
point.
Breaking Bad. Skylar's his wife.
Anyway, it came to a head when both my lives started merging together because one of my friends started getting saved, or at least interested in Christianity. So he started wanting to come to church, and I'm like, oh no. And so my lives started merging.
Wow.
And I was like,
You got exposed.
I was exposed because now my friend's asking me questions, and now my church life is asking questions about this guy. Like, hey, why are you bringing him around? Like, who is this guy? And I'm like, and so
This is the guy club
Were you
with on
aware?
Tuesdays.
Were you aware of these
We
two
go clubbing.
the ridiculousness of 2 different worlds, or did you have to lie to yourself?
you know what? Sin makes you believe foolish
Yeah, I
things.
got it. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, sin makes you believe
Yeah,
foolish
I will
things.
sin sometimes and convince myself it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think maybe I had some thought of like I got to keep up an image or something. I don't know what kind of foolishness I was
Skylar.
believing, quite honestly. Like, yeah, and part of it was a joke. So like I was like, look, I've got 2 lives, blah blah blah. But then but I was living it. So I don't know how long of a joke that this is extended joke here.
Severance in real life.
Yeah, seriously. So when I'll be honest with this, I'll be another honest take. I'm just being like a full of honest takes. When someone pays me a compliment, and it's somewhere along the lines of this, Aaron, you're the same on stage as you are off stage. I
That's
feel
compliment been going around a lot lately.
Yeah.
To almost every staff member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
a sense of like
Should be that way.
growth there.
Yeah.
Because that was not always the
Yeah.
case for me. That was not always. And
Yeah,
to
yeah,
your
yeah.
point with some of those people that you were talking about, those preachers. Yeah, anyway, my sense of self was there was a light shown on who I was because of this merging that happened in my life. So I was very grateful for that. Anyway, I experienced grace.
Yeah.
All the things that was, all the friction that I was caused. Scott was a big part of this, who
Yeah.
like showed grace on my life. And I'm like, okay, Tegan,
So cool.
this is what grace is.
Yeah.
You mess up, you're caught. Like when I was telling her, own it. When you mess up, own it. And I thought, do you know what I mean by own it? She's like, no. I was like, oh, geez. Like she was 6, like you have no. I means you say, yes, I did that. I'm sorry. That's, basic, right? And so I had to teach her what owning it means. Like, yes, I did that and I'm sorry. And that was so heartbreaking for her. She did not want to say, yes, I did that. I did that part. She did not want to say it. And I felt like that was enough punishment. Like she said it and like, I'm backing off.
Remember
now.
that moment? She's not going to remember.
Yeah.
Or
just
she
gonna-
might.
She's going to have this just default, like, I got to own up to this. I got to own it.
Yeah,
She's
I
not
gotta
going to
own
know
it.
where
If you
that
could-
came from.
If she can learn to take responsibility, that's shine like stars. Our
Yeah.
little cards that we have. T is take. I just know that because nobody takes responsibility. Kids don't take
Yeah,
responsibility.
taking
Kids
responsibility
don't
is
take
Parents
tough.
want to take
Responsibility.
responsibility.
Yeah, parents,
That-
kids who don't take responsibility,
Get me started.
kids who don't take responsibility grow into parents who don't take
My
responsibility.
3 years of teaching, that's been the worst experience of my life. I feel like I need to handwrite a letter
The worst-
to every
the
teacher
worst experience of
I've
your life?
ever had ever.
And say, I'm so sorry.
I have, like, for my class, for me, like, it's horrible. You have to be, for children, so college level teaching is different, right? Those are adults, they choose, they pay.
Maybe.
I don't know, I haven't done it, so maybe I feel different. But when it comes to children, they own up to nothing. They always want an out. And the parents are not that much better, which is interesting because when I was a kid and I did something, right, my mom took ownership of me. Mm-hmm. Like, what did he do? Immediately. And after she heard the story, and then she will form an opinion, but it was always, what did he do? He's my responsibility. And what I'm dealing with is like, they point fingers at me. What did I not do?
Yeah.
What did I not do? No. It's crazy.
Yeah, and what
People don't want to take responsibility even as
And
adults.
that's part of grace.
That's
Is
part of grace.
an area where people can take responsibility and they don't shame themselves. They can be honest and say, I screwed that one up.
Yeah, if you can't take responsibility of your sin, how can you take the grace that's coming upon you?
Go ahead. I was going to say, I was talking to Eddie Nieves this week, and I led chapel for the high schoolers, and I had Eddie in class that night for the seminary here, and I said, Eddie, just want you to know, from my opinion, you're working with a bunch of pagan kids. I said, we're a mission school. And I said, but you have your work cut out. And yeah. Because when it comes to the idea of taking responsibility, being aware of their own stuff. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I want to teach.
It's never their fault.
Extreme responsibility is like such an important characteristic, not just in life and to be like whatever, kind of successful or whatever. It's like in your own like soul, like I did something wrong. I need to own that. I need to take, yes, I did that and I'm sorry, is like such a packed statement.
I want to be fair about teaching. There were moments that were like, oh, they're really getting it. This is great. But those were not as many.
Oasis in a desert wasteland.
Yeah. But it really, so remember when we took our, a long time ago, we took our Berkman, and teaching, it's like, I could do this. My personality fits all these things. Teaching is the smallest filled in thing on that little character wheel, and it is real. It is real. People got to get it. But teaching has, I guess, in the last 3 years, helped me grow in the aspect of handling adults. So like even on like the worship team, and Jake, you can tell us, like sometimes when people don't get it or they don't listen, that still happens in adults. And it's given me like more grace. All right, let's work with it. All right, let's talk through this again. All right, let's do this again. So
yeah, but the hard part is when they don't think they're doing something wrong, right? I mean,
but I've gotten better at effectively communicating what they've gotten wrong because I've had to do it with children now. So
and we have lots of parents who help their kids take responsibility. So
yeah.
I don't want to sell everybody out here.
Yeah. I'm backpedaling a little bit.
Yeah.
There's some people that pop my head.
I can think of particular parents that.
Yeah.
I know I make it a point. At least I try to make. Tegan is my responsibility when she's entering into your classroom, Marissa. This is, you let me know and I will correct this thing for you.
So being teaching in there, and now my kids like going, it makes me feel like when the teacher says they're doing great, I'm like, you're not telling me the truth. What did they do? You're telling me you've had her now for how many weeks? We only got 26 days left of school and no behavioral reports? Because I have her at home. I got her at home.
That's funny.
You see a different kid at home.
I see a different kid at home. She's this perfect little angel with you. Let me know. So it's funny. Kids are great. They're dynamic and they're funny and they're always watching you and they're just a fun time and they help you learn more about yourself. Not just your own kids, but even other kids around you.
What would you have done differently, Jerry? Or if you would have done anything differently about thinking about how they form their own sense of self or their own sense of grace and sinfulness?
If there's one area in my life I felt like I did pretty well, it was with raising kids.
Yeah, okay, good. You got some pretty good adults.
They're all right. the difficulty was all the divorce.
Yeah, you've mentioned this.
Yeah, so I'm going to start crying. Yeah.
We need to own up to the cry.
Whoever wants to put their kids in a position like that?
Yeah, right.
And so if you talk about the shame, I felt the shame. I'm the man in this relationship. I was telling somebody, tomorrow's the first. It'll be 20 years ago tomorrow that I moved out of the house to begin the separation process.
Wow.
20 years ago. I can remember just so clearly that day. Just
the day,
crushing.
Yeah.
13.
The crushing feeling of that. Yeah. So anyway,
I relate.
you feel the shame. God in his kindness, though, gave me the strength, I think, to really focus in on my kids. So I think I was a better parent than I could have been because I was so aware of my brokenness and sin. So if anything, I was very much a grace parent. Like, I probably was a better parent going through divorce than I would have been had I remained married.
You were able to share and show grace and teach about grace because you were the recipient of it.
Because I was just busted.
Yeah.
Your kids are my age, right?
Yeah.
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 So, how did they handle it? Which is why I said I was 13. I know it wasn't about me. I was thinking about his kids.
The boys handled it more easily than my daughter, Taylor.
Okay.
Because there are some other dynamics at play. But at this point, they've all worked through it. The divorce does not define them at all.
Yeah.
There's a relationship with dad and mom. They're all in relationships. I tell all three of them they're a lot healthier than I will be. You're talking about sense of self. They all seem to have a really good sense of who they are. And I'm really little jealous and very, very pleased.
Yeah, good.
So if anyone needs to struggle in their identity, I'd rather it be me than them.
Sure.
They seem to just be resilient. They're survivors. They're thrivers. They're strivers.
Yeah. How would I
Not
translate that, though?
connivers.
Like, you had this situation in your life that taught you about your own brokenness and grace and God's grace in your life. How do we... I don't want to deal with that just to get that grace. You know what I'm saying?
don't.
Like, and anyone who's watching doesn't want to. I mean, maybe that's the precursor. I'm not sure.
No, but if you're honest, there are areas in your life where God's grace is needed and evident.
Indeed.
So everybody's got their own personal hell.
Yeah, indeed.
It's just, what are you dealing with?
Never heard anyone loud. I said it inside my head, though, all the time.
What's
When
that?
things are going wrong, I'm like, this is my own personal hell. I say it in my brain. I'm like, this is mine. This is mine.
This is mine.
No one else has a problem like this in their life but me right now. This is my own personal hell.
Mine was pretty exposed. And because I worked at a church, it's a small microcosm, but there's still people that decided they needed to tell me what God was telling them about me.
Jeez, yeah, good grief. Yeah, going through the situation is already tough, but then you add the guilt and shame to like whoever else is watching, and then that's another level of loneliness or judgment and punishment and all that kind of stuff, for sure.
Yeah, but you don't get to know grace until you go through the deep, deep
Dude.
sadness. So I would argue that grace dominates how I view this world.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm totally not aware of myself, but I think I always give people an out. If I tease people, it's because I like them, not because I don't. Because you see people relax when they realize you're going to treat them like a normal person.
Yeah, but then what would you say to someone who's like, but you got to hold them responsible, and they did do something wrong, and antinomian talk. You know what I'm saying? Like what that whole conversation is a longer conversation than what we have. But is there a balance?
How many people have you met who really don't think they've done something wrong when they've done something? There may be some, but those are psychos. Generally, people are aware. It's just getting them to own up to it.
Getting them to own it. Yeah,
so
it's
if you can say, that's why when I teach or preach One of the goals is to make it clear I'm probably the worst sinner in the room.
Yeah.
I'm the dysfunctional one. So you see me cry, and then people make fun of me or don't make fun of me. All right, there's a dude who's there's junk, and you'll say that, you even mentioned that, there's stuff in the background. I wouldn't trade that. I hate it. It keeps me up at night. But when I communicate with people, I don't think I generally come across as judgmental at all. You can come talk to me because Reed understands dysfunction and sin.
Absolutely.
I don't get judgmental from you at all.
So then when you've got that, and most people, you've seen the websites or whatever sites where you can just confess your sin randomly and nobody will know it. Everybody, there's something about us we need to let people, somebody needs to know what we've done. And if we at the church can be that, Steve Brown used to say, you tell me your sin, I will not be surprised.
Yeah. That's a good statement right there.
Yeah, if we can be those people, I'm not your moral judge. What are you going to? So I went to lunch yesterday with Scott Nuremberg, and we started talking about this brothel behind the restaurant. And I don't know, we went a Thai restaurant, and he says,
Thai restaurant.
And Scott said, well, it's a bad look for you and me to go in together. And I said, no, it's a great look. Like, why
Did you guys go?
Yeah, of course.
To the place?
Yeah, why wouldn't we? They have a sushi and curry.
You went to the place next to the place. I thought you went.
No, we don't go to the place.
Oh my goodness!
Even though you thought we could, I'm very pleased that you thought we might.
I'm like, yo, Jerry's a boss. Now I can just walk up in there like, what's up? I got grace.
I'm about to say like, whoa, we got to talk about law, Jerry.
He said it's a bad look for us to go to this restaurant. I said, no, it's not. I said, next door they can do whatever they want. They're not responsible to us. Like,
that's true.
Do whatever you want. I'm not. Whatever. And it'd be nice. It's better for Christians to be around sin than to hide it in the church so that we're not. It's everywhere.
I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I'm next door to somebody who's maybe they're going to sit down and have lunch, and who knows what God does.
Do you remember at the baptisms this Sunday? Walk up, and there's like Tupac playing, which arguably, and then there's like the wafts and waves of weed smell just overtaking the baptism, and
our music, Jesus, we love you.
And so it's kumbaya.
Some people are kind of off put by that at the church. They're like, we got to get a better spot. And part of the allure for me is like
that spot.
I'm like, I like the smell of weed when I'm baptizing people.
That's like doing pros in a bar.
Yeah, it's like,
Where else do you want to be?
We're doing pros at a bar right now, basically. It's
Where else do you want to be?
I'm like, yeah, we're in the world, but we're not of it.
Why hide? The world still happens around us.
But yeah, back to your point. It's like, yeah, we have we are recipients of great grace, and we can't share that if we don't know it. Never experienced.
You've heard the old line: "The person that loves deeply is the person that's been broken very deeply."
True.
Yeah,
this is true.
Yeah, it's just you don't want to be the person who's broken, but you don't get to choose that.
Yeah, and when you were talking about in preaching, your goal is to make sure that everyone knows that you're the chief sinner, borrowing from Paul's words. Probably my take is on that. Like, I want us to all understand like how we are more sinful than we thought we are, or we think we are. Myself, right? And it's like. So, I mean, like Saran was saying, sometimes it's hard for adults. It's very hard for kids, but it's hard. I don't know. It's very hard for adults too, to just own like the level of sin that is in your heart. And that's only by God's grace. You know that, right? Like so.
Last time I preached here, there were 2 points of recognition as I preached. One was I started talking about, I feel like I get it together until I start driving. I recognize I'm the only good driver in South Florida.
That's right.
And then I start realizing, maybe I'm not really that good of a driver. And I said, man, my language changes, my attitudes change. Yeah. And I said something like, what's wrong with me? Well, you could see people in the congregation, they're like, driving, if you want to know what you really like, just go drive.
Just drive, especially St. Lucie West.
Yeah, just
in Port St. Lucie during the winter time.
Yep. Ask my child what I'm like when I drive.
Good grief.
Yep. And the second one was, I said, I started talking about regrets in my life. And I said, I think the older we get, the more regrets we have. And man, there is a visible, palpable, And I thought, all right, those are the 2 things that you don't really have to convince people of. They know we're pretty aware of the fact that we're broken. Yeah. What's wrong with me? And that we've really screwed this thing.
And a lot of times the message of the world is like you could find different places that you have to love yourself, or you have to get around people that love you, or you have to earn your way to like qualify for love for other people. But there's no other place in the world other than the Bible that says like God loves you and he's died for you, and like in your brokenness, in your mess, it's all true. And it's like
the world's from the outside in. You say this mantra and eventually you'll believe it.
Yeah.
Christianity is from the inside out. That's Spirit changed my heart, and then boom.
That's right.
Woo!
Anyway.
And oh, the joy.
You guys have any final thoughts on this?
Have we started our topic yet?
No, we didn't even get to church trends number 3. We'll get to that next week on the Disciple Standard podcast. Thank you, Dean of Deep Thoughts, Right Reverend Dr. Jerry Reed, and the Sultan of Sound himself. We'll see you guys next time on the DSP.
The future is now.